Greystone, a name that once echoed with the clang of pickaxes and the roar of life. Now a hushed whisper in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. The mines, once veins of gold, stood silent, their mouths gaping like forgotten wounds. Houses, huddled like mourners, bore witness to the town's fading glory. The air, thick with the ghosts of miners past, carried a silence more profound than any uttered word. Greystone was a town out of time, trapped in the amber of its own memories. The general store, its shelves sparsely stocked, served more as a gathering place for reminiscing souls. The church, its steeple reaching for a heaven that seemed far away, stood as a stark reminder of faith tested and hope strained. The schoolhouse, its playground silent, echoed with the laughter of children long gone. Greystone clung to the mountainside, a testament to a bygone era. The mine, its entrance sealed with a rusted gate, loomed over the town like a watchful specter. The wind, whistling through the valleys, carried the whispers of 1,000 stories. Stories of hardship, of camaraderie, of dreams shattered and lives lost. Greystone, a town forever scarred by the past, yearned for a future that seemed just out of reach. Clara Evans, her face etched with the passage of time, moved through the town like a phantom. Her steps, measured and slow, carried the weight of a grief that refused to fade. Born and raised in the shadow of the mine, Clara carried Greystone in her blood, its sorrows intertwined with her own. Her memories, vivid and unrelenting, clung to her like coal dust, staining her soul with a darkness that threatened to consume her. The Evans family had been miners for generations, their lives inexorably tied to the fate of Greystone. Her father, a man with calloused hands and a heart of gold, had taught her the meaning of hard work and the importance of family. Her mother, her eyes reflecting the warmth of 1,000 sunrises, had instilled in her a quiet strength and an unwavering faith. Clara's childhood, filled with the simple joys of a life lived close to the earth, had been brutally shattered on a day that would forever scar her soul. The mine explosion, a deafening roar that shook the very foundations of Greystone, had claimed the lives of 37 men, including her father. Clara, just 16 at the time, had watched in horror as the mine, her father's world, transformed into a tomb. The image of the black smoke billowing into the sky, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire town, remained seared into her memory. The explosion had not only taken her father, but had also ripped away her innocence, leaving behind a gaping wound of guilt and grief. Years passed, turning into decades, yet the pain remained, a constant ache in Clara's heart. She became the town nurse, a role she filled with quiet competence and a deep well of empathy. She tended to the physical ailments of Greystone's aging residents, their aches and pains a constant reminder of the unforgiving nature of time. Yet, it was the unseen wounds, the silent burdens of the past, that weighed heaviest on her soul. Clara moved through life shrouded in a veil of guilt, blaming herself for her father's death. She had pleaded with him not to go to work that fateful day, sensing a darkness in the air, a premonition she couldn't shake off. Her father, with a reassuring smile and a gruff pat on her head, had dismissed her fears, calling them the worries of a loving daughter. His words, meant to comfort, echoed in her ears, a constant reminder of her inability to prevent the tragedy. She had chosen to stay in Greystone, bound by a sense of duty to the town and haunted by the ghosts of its past. Her days were spent in a blur of routine, tending to the sick, offering comfort to the grieving, and seeking solace in the quiet solitude of her small home. She had built walls around her heart, shielding herself from the pain of connection, the fear of loss too great to bear. One crisp autumn day, a stranger arrived in Greystone, disturbing the town's melancholic tranquility. Alex Harper, a young journalist with eyes that held a hint of sadness and a notebook filled with stories waiting to be told, had come to Greystone to document the lives of those left behind in forgotten mining towns. He carried himself with a quiet intensity, his gaze sharp and observant, taking in the details of the town with an almost reverent curiosity. Word spread quickly through Greystone's grapevine about the arrival of the journalist and his interest in the town's history. Some regarded him with suspicion, their faces etched with the hard lines of skepticism. Others, their eyes holding a flicker of hope, saw in him a chance for their stories to be heard, their pain acknowledged. Alex, with his disarming smile and genuine interest, possessed a knack for putting people at ease, coaxing their stories from the depths of their hearts. His path inevitably led him to Clara, her reputation as the town's historian preceding her. He found her in the town library, her slender frame dwarfed by towering bookshelves, her fingers tracing the spines of forgotten volumes. When she looked up, her eyes, the color of faded denim, held a mixture of wariness and curiosity. Alex introduced himself, his voice soft yet steady, explaining his purpose for visiting Greystone. And Section 5, Unearthing the Truth. Clara, initially hesitant, found herself drawn to Alex's sincerity. He possessed an earnestness that was disarming, a genuine desire to understand the town and its people. She agreed to speak with him, cautiously at first, sharing anecdotes and memories of a bygone era. As they talked, she found herself revealing more than she intended, the dam of her carefully constructed composure beginning to crack. Alex listened with an attentiveness that was both comforting and unsettling. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes or empty reassurances. He simply listened, his silence creating a space for Clara's words to tumble out, unfiltered and raw. He asked insightful questions, gently prodding her to delve deeper, to confront the shadows that lingered in the corners of her mind. Through their conversations, a bond began to form, a fragile connection between two souls who understood the weight of unspoken grief. Alex, with his gentle persistence, chipped away at the walls Clara had so carefully erected around her heart. He saw through her stoicism, recognizing the pain that simmered beneath the surface. He encouraged her to talk about the explosion, about her father, about the guilt that had haunted her for so long. Clara resisted at first, terrified of unleashing the torrent of emotions she had kept bottled up for years. But Alex's unwavering support, his quiet strength, gave her the courage to face her demons. She spoke of her guilt, her voice trembling with unshed tears, confessing her belief that she could have saved her father. She spoke of her anger, the injustice of it all, the senselessness of the tragedy. As she spoke, the words tumbling out in a rush, a strange sense of release washed over her. For years she had carried the weight of that day alone, the burden of her grief suffocating her. Now, as she shared her story with Alex, she felt a sliver of the weight lift, replaced by a glimmer of understanding. Alex listened patiently, offering no judgments, no easy answers. He simply listened, his presence a beacon of support in the storm of her emotions. He helped her see that her father's death was not her fault, that sometimes life dealt cruel blows that defied explanation. He encouraged her to forgive herself, to release the burden of guilt she had carried for so long. He reminded her of her strength, the resilience she had shown in the face of unimaginable loss. Clara, for the first time in years, allowed herself to imagine a life beyond the confines of her grief. As she spent more time with Alex, exploring the hills and hollows of Greystone, she began to see the town through his eyes. She saw the beauty in the weathered faces of its residents, the resilience in their spirits, the echoes of a vibrant past. She rediscovered her love for the natural world, the way the sunlight dappled through the leaves, the sound of the wind whispering through the trees, the scent of pine needles after a rain shower. She found solace in the simple things, the everyday miracles that had gone unnoticed for so long. Slowly, tentatively, she started to heal. Alex, with his gentle encouragement, helped her to see that her life had meaning, that she had a purpose beyond the tragedy that had defined her past. He reminded her of her compassion, her innate ability to heal, not just physical wounds but emotional ones as well. He encouraged her to use her experiences to help others, to offer comfort and support to those who were struggling. As the leaves began to turn, painting the mountains in vibrant hues of scarlet and gold, Clara knew it was time for her to move on. She had spent her life tethered to Greystone, bound by duty and haunted by the past. Now she felt a pull towards something else, a yearning for a future she could finally embrace. She made the decision to leave Greystone, to start a new chapter in a place where the ghosts of the past wouldn't hold her captive. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she carried within her a newfound strength, a resilience forged in the fires of grief. She was ready to embrace the unknown, to let go of the pain that had held her captive for so long. Before she left, she visited the mine's memorial one last time, her fingers tracing the names etched in the cold stone. She stood there for a long moment, lost in thought, her heart heavy with a familiar ache. But this time, the pain was different. It was a bittersweet ache, a recognition of the love and loss that had shaped her life. As the bus pulled away from Greystone, Clara looked back at the town that had been her whole world. She saw the mountains, their peaks shrouded in mist, and felt a pang of longing. But it was a longing tinged with gratitude, an acknowledgement of the life she had lived and the lessons she had learned. Beside her, Alex smiled, his hand resting reassuringly over hers. They were embarking on a new adventure, together. Clara didn't know what the future held, but she faced it with a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. She carried the past with her, not as a burden, but as a reminder of her own strength, her capacity for love and forgiveness. Greystone would always be a part of her, but it no longer defined her. She was free to create a new life, to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. The road ahead was long, but Clara, her heart filled with a newfound sense of purpose, was ready to meet it, one step at a time.